It's that time every week where we get to talk to Bret Baier from your Fox News channel, the host of Special Report. Hello, Bret. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, listen, a lot going on in Washington right now. I think one of the things that I see is, and this is, of course, very important to people who work for the federal government, and that's that we run out of money at midnight.
Yep.
And so I guess there's going to be, because they don't have the omnibus, so I guess there's going to be a short-term deal?
Yeah, there's a 5-day extension, which is always wonderful. Makes you feel good. 5-day that passed the Senate yesterday, and I expect it to pass to give them a little buffer. But listen, we come up to these fiscal cliffs all the time.
Yep.
And it's almost like crying wolf because eventually there's a short-term deal that takes you over the next hump. The big deal is way far away. It's not possible in this environment, unfortunately, and we always seem to be one election away from dealing with the big things.
So what is the hang-up on getting the omnibus bill funding taken care of?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of funding that is tied to various things, and Republicans have issues with the Planned Parenthood funding. There are issues about the battle between defense spending and domestic spending. But the biggest stuff is the riders, the bills that go along with this massive bill. So they stick them on like a Christmas tree, ornaments, and weeding through that has become pretty tough.
Hey, Bret, I think it's fair to say that if Donald Trump weren't in the race, Senator Ted Cruz would probably have been sort of identified and put into that category of extreme and sort of, red meat conservative type. So while everyone's focusing on Trump, Cruz has quietly been garnering a lot of mainstream and important endorsements, including one yesterday from one of the top evangelical leaders in Iowa. Is this a story that's sort of been off the radar a bit, and Cruz is actually starting to churn out a very legitimate campaign?
I think the people who follow it closely realize Cruz's power and impact. The endorsement yesterday of Bob Vanderplaats was significant in Iowa, and he has a lot of sway with evangelicals in Iowa. Cruz has cobbled together in the South, in Iowa, in a number of places, a pretty good infrastructure. And, he's really tapped into the evangelical vote. And, I think he's the going bet if something happens with Trump that he would win Iowa. But the big if is Trump.
Is it fair to say, though, that in the way I framed the question, Bret, that in a way Donald Trump's campaign has helped Ted Cruz?
Yes,
in terms,
provided him cover.
Yeah.
He's provided him a pathway. He's provided him a way to not be lambasted all the time by the other candidates who are dealing with trying to fend off Trump's charges.
Yeah.
We just went and played the sound a minute ago from Megyn Kelly's interview last night with this DHS whistleblower who says that look, I actually was on the track of these. It could have been on the track of these people from San Bernardino, but I was pulled off of that investigation, and I was told that I couldn't do it because the people at the Civil Rights and Liberties part of Homeland Security decided that I was profiling Muslims. But if he had been allowed to do it, there's a pretty good chance this guy would have risen to the attention of officials.
Well, I thought it was fascinating, and I think we're starting to learn more about the bureaucracy of the Obama administration in fighting this threat and the battle between security and civil rights, and worrying about profiling Muslims. And I think the balance had tipped that way in this administration. This guy saying two things would have happened. One is Saeed Farouk would have been on a no-fly list, most likely, and two, that would have likely prevented his wife from getting a K-1 visa. And obviously she is seen as a linchpin to what transpired in San Bernardino.
Mm-hmm. Bret, we've got another big Republican debate out of Nevada next week, and it seems like now, if you analyze it, you've got Cruz, Rubio, Trump, Carson starting to fade now, but those top four, and then there's this huge grouping of single-digit candidates. Is this sort of the last debate where people start to get weeded out, do you think? A make or break for your Kasich's, your Fiorinas, even your Jeb Bushes?
Well, I think a lot of them want to hold on because they just believe that something is going to change dramatically, and they have a chance. I mean, when you talk to them in their campaigns, I do think you're going to see somebody drop out before Iowa. And, listen, there are different polls. There's a new poll out today that shows Christie up in New Hampshire and, on the move. And remember, he was on the second debate stage last time.
Yes.
So I think there is still this probably going to be these two stages going forward. Our next debate is on Fox News Channel is January 28th, 4 days before the Iowa caucus in Des Moines.
Yeah.
And I think by then, I bet it will be narrowed a bit, but we have a couple debates before then.
Well, that sounds that'll be good. And people say that you say that they want to stay in through Iowa, to see if something happens. But every time that you see criticism of Donald Trump, it seems that his numbers go up. Do you have a sense of why that is? I wonder if it's sort of like that thing where, your teenage daughter wants to date this guy that you don't like, and you say you can't date that guy?
Yeah.
and that means that's the only thing that they're going to want is to date that guy. Is that what's going on here?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think there is a bit of that, and I think there is also, the byproduct of this frustration and this anger about both parties in Washington has been to rally around Donald Trump, no matter what he says, and he has fired up people. So if it's not Donald Trump, the nominee of the Republican Party will have to figure out how to tap into that same vein of people who are motivated.
Finally, Bret Baier, we had James Rosen on our afternoon show earlier this week. It was to commemorate the 35th anniversary of John Lennon's passing, and apparently there's some competition now between Carl Cameron and James Rosen over who is the more accurate Beatles aficionado.
There was an email exchange that Carl alleged that James got something wrong in Beatle history.
I've heard that you have stirred the pot a little bit on
this,
Brett.
Well, I did stir the pot.
Well, so who was right?
You know what? In a fair and balanced way, I need to do some research on that to make sure that I don't side with the wrong person.
James assures us that he was right.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brett.
I can't imagine Carl ever backing down.
Have a great weekend,
Thanks,
Brett.
guys. See you later.